Hey, what's up? It's May 9th, 2024. This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com, NJ and LDN. MIB in Below. Sheldon Keefe is the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs no more. The organization relieved him of his duties today, just igniting a whirlwind of reaction from Leafs Nation, anyone associated with the NHL, fans at large. It was expected. It happened. Mike, I want to get your reaction to the move, the Leafs and Sheldon Keefe parting ways. Would also like to get your thoughts on Sheldon Keefe's tenure as head coach of the Maple Leafs. Should we look down on his time behind the bench, or should we give him his props? And at the end of the day, just, I guess, could be resigned to the fact that he wasn't able to get it done. Plus, I'd like to get a couple of candidates from you as to who you think might replace him, and then we'll fill out the show from there with whatever else we can talk about. Mitch Marner, maybe your thoughts on the Elite Eight in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But it's good to see you again, my friend.
Good evening, Norm. Okay, let's start with Sheldon Keefe. I think it was pretty much a foregone conclusion after they lost in the first round to the Bruins that he was not going to be back. There was maybe a sliver of hope that they would, but I didn't think there was any realistic chance that he was going to be back. It's been just under 5 years. He took over in November of 2019. The funny thing is, in terms of the guilty parties of who is chiefly responsible for the struggles and downfall of this team over the last number of years, he's third. He is. Right. I mean, the coach does have some responsibility in terms of drawing the best out of his players, but I do find fault in the player group. I do find fault with the philosophy of the organization. And, Keefe, I think at times pushed against that philosophy. I mean, I know people were talking about that Amazon series where, the season that they lost to the Canadiens, and the inside look at the Leafs and some of the comments that Keefe made. This team is not scoring playoff style goals, or, comments about certain players. And okay, you could see that there was a little sort of dissension or a little, contrary point of view from him. But, that being said, he had 5 years, which he was one of the top 5 or 6 longest tenured coaches in the NHL. And he did have a certain level of success in the regular season, but could not match that in the playoffs. And as we have said, the playoffs are where it counts. And since they didn't make any real progress, he really had to go. Whether who they bring in is going to be an improvement, I'm not a prognosticator. I'm not Karnak. I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know. I just know that right now he won 1 round in 5 years. Mm-hmm. Babcock won 1 round in 3 playoff years, I believe it was. So pretty much the same. I can just say this: he was better than Mike Babcock. At least he wasn't. At least he wasn't a jerk. At least
taking over for Mike Babcock from 2019 through the 2020 season into 23 and 24, 212, 97, and it looks like 40. So if a regular season record is any indicator, Sheldon Keefe should be re-up for life. However, it's the playoffs that the team has not succeeded in, and he's just the latest coach to be there for that lack of success. He even said in his reaction to the firing, which I'm sure he knew was coming, that he just didn't get it done. Right, Mike? And that's professional sports. He'll make his money and he'll get another opportunity somewhere. Most likely landing as an assistant with a team and then probably elevating himself to the head coaching job of another NHL team at some point.
Yeah, no, I don't even think he'll become an assistant. I think, one of the luxuries that he has with the contract that he signed, the 2-year extension, which hasn't even kicked in yet, is that he can sit back and wait for an opportunity. I know that Pierre LeBrun reported that, New Jersey might be interested in talking to him. Everybody's going to put together him in Pittsburgh, although you'd have to probably wait until Mike Sullivan either decides he wants to move on or gets fired in Pittsburgh. But everybody's going to put him with Kyle Dubas, and that's a possibility. He's got 2 years making, I think it's $3 million. So, I'd take that, sit back and enjoy. And then, I mean, a year or two it's not like he's going to be all of a sudden, sort of archaic. So I think he'll be patient, not jump at an opportunity. And, like I said, from all, I was in scrums with him. He was always, very pleasant, unlike his predecessor, who was really like a snapping turtle. And I wish him the best. And he did have incredible regular season success, but this is a results-oriented business, and he did not get it done, and they did not get it done when it counted.
Patrick Gene Mafia convert for sure. Smart idea from Keefe, makes the team look like the bad guy. I don't agree with that, Patrick, whether the team is the evil empire or just this monolithic entity, and Keefe is the poster child for today's hockey fan. It had to happen, right? And that's the thing. It's not like we're here saying poor Sheldon Keefe, he lost his job because his players didn't perform for him. Now that is a byproduct of why he's on the unemployment line tonight. But it was just time. So I don't think that we have a dynamic of bad guy, good guy here. It was kind of time to part ways, and it seemed relatively amicable and understanding. Sheldon Keefe will get another job. The Leafs need someone else at the helm.
Had he been fired after a year and a half, then the Leafs sort of looked like a bad guy. They gave him 4.5 seasons. They gave him enough of an opportunity. Now, I could say, well, they didn't provide him with the structure of a roster that could win. And that's always been my assertion, that 4 players making $40 million and being top heavy up front is not conducive to winning in this league. But, he knew that going in, and he accepted the challenge. And unfortunately, he did not win to the expectations of the franchise. But they gave him a fair enough opportunity, and I think what he said at the end on that video that he put out this morning, I think he was appreciative of the opportunity, and he's going to get more of an opportunity someplace else. Right,
good coach, good mind, a young guy with an old school mentality. I can certainly jive with that. When he took over the job, what do you think he thought he could accomplish with this group? Getting rid of Mike Babcock, the old gruff bugger who was playing head games with players, borderline, abusive with them, just wasn't working. Here comes the younger cat, a little bit more relatable, but still with some old school tentacles and beliefs. What do you think he thought he was going to accomplish with this group that he didn't? Now, and forget championships. Everybody wants to win. Save for a title. What do you think is missing from Sheldon Keefe's belief that he would accomplish with this team that, unfortunately will just have to be a void when he looks back on his tenure with the Maple Leafs?
Well, he didn't win a Memorial Cup with Sault Ste. Marie, even though they had good teams when he was a coach there. He did win a Calder Cup with the Marlies. I think he imagined having the type of success that he had with the Marlies, with Toronto, with a lot of the players that he had with the Marlies. Remember, he had Nylander and Hyman and Connor Brown and Andreas Janssen and all those guys. I think he imagined having that type of success. And I remember, I just heard somebody talking about the fact that, the players, when he got hired to replace Babcock, it was like a breath of fresh air because they were essentially being, beaten into shape by a guy who that was the only way he knew how to coach. And I think Keefe was more of a sort of a new wave guy. I don't think he was a pushover. I think but I do think he was more player friendly than Babcock was. And now I think, from all indications, this team is going to go for a veteran coach that's going to push their buttons. And, that's probably, just like in Buffalo with Don Granato, he was a player friendly guy, but he didn't get them to the promised land. And what happens? They bring back Lindy Ruff, who is a nut cutter. So
are you talking about a more politically correct Mike Babcock-esque type coach coming back in to handle this group?
It's possible. I mean, they're talking veteran. I mean, the names that they're mentioning, and we'll go over that in a minute, but they're talking about veteran, experienced coaches and getting them to, I mean, I don't know about press this core group, but get more out of them in different ways than the previous coach and the previous two coaches did.
Is that in and of itself, is that a resignment to the inevitability of this group just coming back and whomever trying to get more out of the same guys who've always been there and who've left so much to be desired year in and year out?
Well, I mean, I've been pretty consistent on this over the last few months. And I know in the immediate aftermath of the loss to Boston, of course, everybody was like, roll out the guillotine on 40 Bay and it's like Robespierre, and let's have the heads roll down, down the Gardner. That was not going to happen.
What a visual.
Yeah, that was not going to happen. Now, okay, we've gotten one leg of the table has been kicked out. Sheldon Keefe has been fired. You have learned, and Spike, here you go. You've learned that Brendan Shanahan is going to be part of the meeting with the media tomorrow, along with Keith Pelly and along with Brad Treliving. That would lead.
Sorry, Mike, real quick. So anybody who's just listening and who isn't watching this, Spike 11, a convert 100%, probably maybe pound for pound our most dedicated and devoted, day in and day out, show in and show out, watcher, viewer, consumer of the content. So Spike, thanks. So we've got to take what he says seriously because we appreciate it. Keith is only one domino. His firing today, just the beginning. Shanahan, Marner, Tavares, and Riley should all go too. Now, Mike, you'll probably contest that belief, but you continue on with what you're saying. Spike 11, thanks so much for contributing.
No, I understand Spike's point of view, but I just say to that, what is the color of the sky in your world? Because this is a league with clauses and contracts, and the three names that you mentioned all have no movement clauses. They're not going anywhere if they don't want to. So start with Shanahan. Shanahan will be on the dais tomorrow with Keith Pelly and with Brad Treliving. That would lead me to believe that he's got a year left in his contract, that he's staying. Now, I think that there's going to have to be, otherwise there's going to be hue and cry from everybody. There's going to have to be an augmentation of the, quote, Shana plan in terms of, we're going to bring back the core group and it's not working. But the problem is that they are really powerless. And Brendan Shanahan is nobody to blame but himself, because he fired Kyle Dubas right before July 1st of last year. I mean, he fired him in May, but it took him a month to bring in Brad Treliving, and then you had Marner with a no movement clause that kicked in on July 1, and William Nylander, who had no trade protection, and you decided to sign him and give him a no movement clause. So you locked yourself into this Muskoka 5 2.0. And that's where you are right now. So if Shanahan doesn't go anywhere, which all the indications are that he's not, that he'll probably finish out the last year of the contract, and then they see where the team goes from there. Okay. John Tavares is 33 years old, turns 34 in September. He's got a year left in his contract. Why would he want to go anywhere? He's got 3 young kids. He's living at home. He's not going anywhere. I don't think many people expected him to go anywhere. Marner is the one that everybody says, okay, well, if we make him miserable enough, maybe he'll go. Okay. Pierre LeBrun laid this out on TSN radio this afternoon pretty succinctly. How many teams out there are willing that can take an $11 million player, can give the Leafs a package that would be acceptable, that could sign Marner to an extension? I mean, keep going here in terms of all the things. You're talking probably 2 or 3 teams. They're not going to give you full value. They're going to give you pennies on the dollar. And my belief is, unless something unforeseen happens, or unless he wants to go and he opens himself up to a wider swath of teams, that he's going nowhere. Right. And neither is Morgan Riley. So prepare yourself, folks, to celebrate the band coming back together, because that's what's going to happen.
Our boy Arnav, an OG. Bye-bye Keefe releases a farewell vid from his boat. What a classy guy. Speaking of the Muskoka 5, he's probably up in Muskoka right now. And, it's a good life for Sheldon Keefe. Great regular season head coach. He can blame it on the players, and he'll get another job somewhere else, guaranteed. Good guy. I've never had a problem with him. To this point, it just didn't work. It's time for him to move on. Time for the Leafs to get somebody different. And that's what I would say about Mitch Marner. However, I believe this is my belief. I believe he and his crew, including his family and his agents, are vindictive enough to, hold the Leafs to the fire and hold the Leafs hostage and just go out there and fucking do his thing and get booed and, not be accepted by the fans, because they won't. They won't. Not in it does not matter what kind of regular season Mitch Marner has after everything that's gone on. And it's not like he had the worst playoff compared to other guys. It's just, the relationship should probably end. But, other than Marner doing the Leafs a favor and the Leafs taking a bit of a haircut on the package coming back, how is this favorable to anyone, really, other than beginning to cut ties with that group, which optically is a really, really, really good thing. It's I guess Mitch Marner is going to come back and play and be a deadline guy, and that alone presents challenges, because what the hell can you get at the deadline for a guy like Mitch Marner, unless there's a team that's desperate for someone who offers his skill set and willing to pay a boatload to get it? And that's a real small percentage chance of happening.
Well, again, it's what is in it for him,
right?
And that's you said at the deadline. Okay, the deadline is now. I mean, he's got a no movement clause now. He's got a no movement clause in March of 2025. It's not going to change. The only thing that would change is if the Leafs are not going to be in the playoff race and he wants to go take a run with another team. But it doesn't change. I mean, you could say, well, maybe he'll get sick and tired of the abuse or whatever. Yeah, it doesn't change the fact that they're not going to get value. They're not going to. The whole point here of everybody talking about trading Mitch Marner was this, like I see somebody in the chat, oh, trade him for UC Saros. Oh, trade him for Brady Tkachuk. Trade him for whatever, Owen Power.
Those are fantasy league trades.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking in reality here. And I've been saying for 3 months, he's got a no move clause. If he doesn't want to go anywhere, he's not going to go anywhere. He said as much in the locker room clean out. Now things could change. I mean, but if the Leafs say, we're not going to negotiate, we're not going to offer you an extension, then at that point, maybe they say, maybe his team is Darren Ferris is his agent, says, okay, well, we're open to exploring the possibility, but we'll only go to 2, 3, or 4 teams. Okay. Last year, they supposedly talked trade about Nylander, didn't get any kind of offers that they thought were worth it, top 4 defensemen that were worth their while. And in the end, they kept them. Mm-hmm. So what's going to change here? It's my assertion that I don't think they're going to get what they think they're going to get on the open market. And in the end, they're going to end up keeping them. And now I hope I'm wrong, because I think this team needs a change. Now, after next year, you're going to have $22 million in cap space open up with Marner and Tavares, but then you have to fill, this year was what, 140 points?
Right.
Okay. Good luck.
Mm-hmm. OG's Converse, thanks for being here. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. 100 people in the chat. Thousands more will watch on YouTube. YouTube.com/the Leafs Convo / community is where I put up a poll of late. I have some comments in there. We'd love you to interact with us, not just today, not just tomorrow, over the coming weeks, but coming months and coming years. Season 7 is on the horizon. We appreciate all of the new subs. Stick with us. It makes no sense to unsub and then keep coming back, because we're going to have plenty of content. Mike and I are also working on some content that is what you call evergreen. We'll get into different things about the Maple Leafs that will be sustaining for much time to come, and not time sensitive like what we're creating right now with content like this. Also, oakridgeford.com. That's where you're going to go to find your next car. Lots of used on the lot. And I got to tell you right now, if you're in Southern Ontario and you're looking for a new vehicle, the game has changed in favor of the consumer. Rates have come down. Discounts are out there. Ford has been doing this. The big monolithic conglomerate at the top has, finally decided that it's time for people like you, myself, and Mike to be able to afford a car. Reach out to me at Norman Oakridge Ford on Instagram, norman.james@oakridgeford.com through email. I am your guy for Leafs content. I can be your guy for your next car deal. Mike, we'll deal with the Marner thing as information rears its head and more news comes to light. We may not, but we may, and we can discuss it and add our 2 cents as time goes by. Terms of a replacement for Sheldon Keefe, Joel Quenneville's name is out there. Craig Berube's name is out there. Those seem like 2 obvious old school kind of gruff guys, one with cups, one without, who can potentially be there to take the job just to the fact that they're unemployed. But are there a couple of other candidates that lay in wait for an opportunity like this that we're not thinking of?
Well, I know that the other names that have been mentioned have been Gerard Gallant, Todd McClellan, besides Berube. Now the Quenneville thing, to me, he's the most shiny toy. He's the most
Berube did win the Stanley Cup. My apologies.
Yeah, I know he did. But Quenneville won 3.
Yeah, okay. Sorry.
And Berube won. It was basically a half season taking over for, taking over in St. Louis and then turning things around. And I'm not taking anything away from him, but they really didn't do much after that. And that's and he was a head coach in Philadelphia and didn't do much there. So I'm not a big Berube fan. I have nothing against him, and if that's the way, but I'm not. It's like the Stanley Cup. Okay. I think if he won 1 Stanley Cup in Toronto, they'd build a statue at in Maple Leaf Square. But I'm right now, it's like I'm looking in terms of long-term success. You go down that road, and Babcock had his success, but I don't think that Quenneville is as much of a jerk as Babcock is.
Mark Benjamin, Quenneville, he's the man. He's perfect fit for this team. He's got some baggage, and that may never have come to light, but it did. And if you put that aside, Quenneville would be the guy. It's just optically, especially in a very liberal thinking place like Toronto, does he bring other challenges that the Leafs just don't want to have to contend with night in and night out when they've got enough problems on the ice? And the other thing too, Mike, is there that's the thing. These guys do what they do and they're really successful. But is there a coach, like some kind of I don't even know it, some magician who can connect with these guys in a way they've never been connected with before at this point in their careers? That would bring more out of them than we've already been given. It's really hard to fathom.
Yeah, but the problem is those coaches are employed. And, it's like you're not going to get John Cooper out of Tampa Bay unless, he's got a year left in his contract, unless you're willing to wait around for a year, which obviously they're not because they fired Keefe, or Rod Brind'Amour in Carolina, who's made a conference final but has never won a Stanley Cup as a coach. But if you want to wait around there, I mean, you're taking a chance. I mean, the Quenneville thing, I mean, I think I'm not diminishing the situation that happened in 2010 with the Blackhawks. I think if he gets clearance from the league, that is something that is handled in the opening press conference by him and by PR. And then I think they move past it. If it's going to be something that is lingering, I don't see that. But I mean, I'll just say I think there's 5 or 6 coaches that they will interview. And obviously, I think it'll take a little bit of time, but not a lengthy amount of time. I think they probably get a coach hired before June the 1st.
Is there a situation with Quenneville that I'm not aware of? Like, is there a stipulation? Is there a certain time frame that he has to complete before he can be employed? No. So why hasn't he been employed?
He has to petition the league. Right now, the league has to say he is hireable. I believe him and Stan Bowman are under some sort of suspension that he has to, they have to say, okay, he has paid his penance. He can work. Whether that, that they will give that thumbs up, nobody knows. I mean, the Leafs could go to the league and the league can say, no, we don't want you to hire him. And then they have to move on to plan B. There's no indication one way or the other. So the only way they're going to know is whether they ask.
Are they going to hire somebody before the Stanley Cup is awarded?
Yes, I believe so.
So they're not going to wait to see if somebody's relieved of his duties that they would want, just due to the fact that coach's team didn't make it all the way and somebody's pissed off with that organization. Maybe there's a candidate out there who will be unemployed or who will be available in the coming weeks.
Brind'Amour is the one that fits that because his contract is up at the end of this year with Carolina. There was some talk that Kevin Adams might have wanted to wait around for him in Buffalo, but I think ownership wanted Lindy Ruff. It's not to say that he's definitely, because there's a lot of talk about him re-signing with the Hurricanes, and he did that before. Maybe if he's tired of not getting paid top dollar, which he's never going to be with Tom Dundon, maybe he would entertain other offers. I think it's worth a ask. They can do that. They can ask his agent, not have to ask him because he's too involved in the playoffs. But I mean,
the Leafs have done this in the past. The Leafs have waited for guys. They've asked for permission to talk to hockey people who are currently employed in a place, and then obviously come to the Leafs. It's just the bravado of an organization to do that. I mean, at that time, the Leafs were the biggest organization, highest valued organization in the league, even though they sucked. Mm-hmm. Do you still leverage your weight that way if you can? And are we past that now? Should there be some humility to the way the Leafs approach things due to the fact that they've won jack shit for how long? And maybe they should just follow the order instead of trying to ram their way into employing guys who are still under contract with other teams.
Well, if they think they're the best and they want the best, then they try to go for the best. I'm of that opinion, but there are such things as contracts and right. Such things as tampering. So you have to do it the right way. Right. And if you do it the right way, and the coach doesn't want to come to Toronto, then he's not going to come to Toronto. It's like, right. That's why if Carolina gets eliminated by the Rangers, then you ask the question. I mean, Brad Treliving wouldn't be doing his job if he didn't kick the tires on every possibility. So right. I think that they would know operating around the periphery, whether a guy like Brindamore is available or is open to hear, because Don Waddell, the Carolina GM, has said, we want to sign him and we're going to sign him. Okay, so why isn't he signed? And if they have a contract in the drawer, okay, fine. Then they'll move on to the next guy. But that's why, Quenneville and Berube and the coaches who are not hired, there is no complication there. They just have to decide which one they like the best and go from there.
That's the thing, Mike. I mean, forget about Kumbaya. The Leafs have won a ton of regular season games over the last 7-8 years, probably amongst the most out of any team. Its playoff success has been lacking, but they're still the fucking Maple Leafs, right? If this organization ever turned in the right direction and started winning playoff rounds, the masses would come out. They're there, but they're smart enough to realize that, once bitten, twice bitten, 100 times bitten, you're shy as hell. And you're waiting for something to go down that makes sense, and it will happen eventually. From an organizational standpoint, having the financial might and having all of this support behind you, whether negative or positive, maybe act like a bully. Maybe go and hire Joel Quenneville and deal with the bullshit you have to deal with, and just do it. There are lots of things to consider, but they're the fucking Maple Leafs. Puff your chest out and say, hey, yeah, we own it. We haven't won anything, but we're still the Maple Leafs, and we're still going to give it a shot. Last couple of comments, and let's get out of here. Anush Patel, thank you very much for that. You don't have to do that, but that means a lot to us. We do not want a coach who has already won a cup. Only 3 coaches in NHL history have won cups with different teams. Tommy Gorman, Dick Irvin, Scotty Bowman. That is it. No other NHL coaches have won with different teams. Anush, thanks so much for that comment. That means a lot to us. And you don't have to drop that kind of coin just to get your comment read. But when you do, it helps Mike and I. It means a lot to us. How do you want to wrap up this show, Mike?
Well, just to touch on the playoffs right now and the one series where it's Vancouver, Edmonton, and Vancouver came back from 4-1 to win 5-4. And I made the joke on Twitter yesterday. It was positively Leafian because Edmonton's got so many ex-Leafs that they decided they couldn't hold a 4-1 lead. Right now, there's only going to be one Canadian team that gets to the conference final. And right now, if it's Vancouver, they don't have a number 1 goaltender. And if it's Edmonton, they don't have a number 1 goaltender either. And they might not have Leon Draisaitl based on the injury that he apparently showed in the game yesterday. He was hobbled. I hate to say it. I think it's going to be 33 years that there's no Canadian team that wins the Stanley Cup. Right now, it looks to me like it's going to be either the Rangers or Florida in the East, and in the West. Whoever wins Colorado, Dallas, I think is going to be the representative in the West.
Forever and ever and ever, it had to be the Maple Leafs to win that Stanley Cup. And I can remember about 2010-ish, 09, 10, 11, when the Habs were on that run with Carey Price and PK and Kovalev and all these dudes, and playing in conference finals. And I remember they lost to the Rangers the one year. And, I was so relieved because the Leafs could still be that team. At 48 years old or 48 years young, my mentality's changed. Do I want a Canadian team to win? Sure. Is it a must? No. Would it be nice? Yes. If the Leafs were to be that team, hallelujah. But at this point now, the run of futility is getting really pathetic with 7 teams in the league. And the kind of talent that's out there. I'd love to see it. Would I want a Carolina Hurricanes to win a championship over the Vancouver Canucks? Mike, you wouldn't, right? It's just it is what it is. It's not that we don't want Carolina to win another title and we don't think the fans down there deserve it and that this would be good for hockey in that market. But it would also be good for hockey in the markets that will continue to love the game. Some, like Winnipeg's, that might not have a team in a couple of years to win a Stanley Cup. That would be great for them too.
There are.
don't care. I just don't care if it's the Leafs to win first any longer, and that just shows you how desensitized I've become to this run of failure and where I'm at in my life.
Well, I mean, you're more highly evolved than I am, because I wouldn't mind if Winnipeg won. I wouldn't mind if Calgary won. Vancouver, okay. I mean, I'm not that. I would rather see the Devil win than Edmonton or Ottawa or the Montreal Canadiens.
Someone has to remain.
Yeah, no, I mean, they won enough cups. They've forfeited, and they've had enough number one overall picks. They have forfeited winning the cup for the rest of the millennium. So no to Edmonton, no to Montreal, no to Ottawa.
Hey, Mike, that is beyond fair enough. OG's converts, like the content, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate your support for this project so much. We've made some major strides over season 6. And I think season 7 is going to be bigger and better than ever, with all kinds of Leafs news to come. And then hopefully another great regular season that is topped off by the playoff run that we've all been waiting for. If you want to reach out to us, Leafs Convo, through the YouTube channel, that's youtube.com/the Leafs Convo/community. You can get at mike@hockeybuzz.com. By the way, what are you writing right now, Mike? Is it just some reaction to Sheldon Keefe and some speculation as to who his replacement will be?
Speculation more on the weekend. With tomorrow will just be a reaction to the press conference. Today was just a reaction to the Keefe firing. So just doing basic news right now, but there'll be a lot more speculation about roster and coaches on the weekend and next week.
Mike's got your next Leafs article at hockeybuzz.com. I have your next car at oakridgeford.com. And we'll have your next Leafs podcast right here on the Leafs Convo. The Sunday Spectacular is only hours away. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in a few. For Mr. A, I'm Mr. J. The Leafs Convo is out.